It's California Edition. My name is Brad Pomerance, and we are joined by Carol Liu. She is a member of the California State Senate. She is chair of the Education Committee in that body. And I want to speak with you about a few issues facing the education community.
Sure.
And one specifically deals with adult education. As you may remember, a few years ago, there was a move to move adult ed from K-12 to community colleges. And it was going to happen very quickly. Well, that got slowed down, and so now there's been, I guess, a study on what we should do, and you've been involved in that. Talk to us about that.
Well, I mean, I think the initial impetus for doing this is that adult ed has historically been with the K-12 system, and it has a limited number of achievements, goals that it can address. It can English as second language, citizenship, some training and work training.
Intuitively, it would feel like it'd be more appropriate in community colleges. I don't know about the policy behind it, but adults in community colleges.
Right, and so I think that's where the governor was. And so he tried to
make it happen fast.
Happen faster, and there was a lot of pushback on this. So we've had about 18 months now of meetings of minds, consortiums of both community college folks and adult ed people trying to sit down and work it out. And the funding for all of this will end at the end of this next coming year. And I do know that many adult at the K-12 system is very nervous about what's going to happen.
Do they want to keep adult ed?
Of course.
Really?
Yes.
It just seems as if it's off mission.
Well, I mean, it could be that way, but quite frankly, it is. There've been a lot of success. Many adult schools are very successful, and it's, quote, cheaper for the state because, in essence, because if you take it to the community colleges, every teacher has to have a master's degree and a master's degree. Now the K-12 teachers today all do the 5th year and they all get a master's degree. So maybe that's not so much an issue today, but out of the K-12 system, it is a little bit less expensive. However, you know, it is a governance issue, and the K-12 system is limited because it addresses about 3 million adults. But we have about a 5 million adult need. So how do we better integrate our resources to reach more people more efficiently? And that's supposed to be part of the discussion.
And I also understand that funding for adult ed, aside from where it should be taught, has been cut dramatically.
Yes.
I was reading that in 2007-8, funding had been $750 million. Last year, it was only $300 million. That's almost half.
Almost half.
Where do we go from here?
Well, I mean, it is part. You know, it's part of the reorg, so to speak, of how do you reach more people with not as much resources, and how do we, if we put it into community colleges, how do we absorb those that you know are functioning in the K-12 system? It's all kinds of these questions, and hopefully these consortiums that have been developed across the state will come to the table with some solutions to this problem.
We know that Prop 30 passed a couple of years back. We know much of that money is dedicated to K-12. Would that therefore apply to adult ed in K-12?
I don't think so. I mean, that Prop 30 essentially kept us from cutting more money out of K-12 as opposed to adding more to the pot. And it's just kept us at bay, so to speak. But the improving economy makes a difference here. So with those better numbers, Prop 30 disappears in 2018. So it's hoped that, and the governor is pretty adamant about this, that he's not going out for a renewal on the proposition.
Which is quite interesting.
Right, very interesting. And we will, you know, find out in a couple of years where we are economically and whether or not we can continue to support the systems as we see it. And
let's talk about another system in California, and that's the higher ed system.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes. The UC system was seen as a crown jewel of our great state. We know that there arguably is a game of chicken going on between the UC and the Sacramento, I guess you could say, the UC Board of Trustees or Board of Governors.
Regents.
Regents, thank you for the correction, has passed a resolution, I guess you could say, increasing tuition 5% over the next 5 years, causing tremendous angst for many of us. As chair of education in the Senate, what's your sense of the UC's view that if you don't give us more money, we're going to push through with this tuition increase?
Well, it certainly is a political challenge that's
Yes.
come across our table here. The governor has had a handshake agreement with the higher ed segments, saying that we'll give you 4% if you don't raise tuition for the next 4 years. And so we're in the middle of that relation, or the state and the governor, or the UCs are in the middle of this relationship. The UCs have put on the table what you just suggested, 5% over 5 years.
So is the 4% not enough? Is that what they're saying?
Yes. Well, I mean, so it's much ado about 1%. I don't think really that's the issue here. I think it's a power play about who's in charge. And
who is in charge? Honestly, I mean, I have that question in my heart. Can the UCs, they're an arm of the state of California.
Yes.
I mean, do they have the power to pass this increase without gubernatorial support, legislative support?
Of course.
They do.
They do. They're constitutionally, separate. They're not, However, if they do that, then the legislature, the governor, has the power to.
You could cut them 5%.
Right. That's right.
Right.
So it's it's not a political game. We're very concerned about tuition rising and increases, and our kids not being able to, or going into debt. But actually in California. Our young people coming out of the UC system are less in debt than they are across this country, because our tuitions relatively have been modest, except that I think the UCs today exceed some of the other public universities.
And so if you look at University of Virginia, University of Michigan, University of Texas, similar institutions with high esteem, we are kind of in the middle of that pack in terms of financial commitment. So where does this end? How does this end?
It really is a very difficult question, because you're talking about sustainability of our public institutions, and it's very, very difficult because you're dependent upon the willingness of the people to pay their taxes to fund our public institutions.
Now, last year, as you know, former Speaker John Perez, one of his signature achievements was this middle class scholarship. Which, of course, very popular, but is it time to rethink whether we should be offering that scholarship so we can give that to the, quote, general fund of the UC system?
Well, I mean, the Senate has offered that, a rethinking about the repurposing of the money. And in essence, there's a couple of things that are going on. There was a PPIC
Public Policy Institute,
poll that came out a couple of years ago that said that California needed to have 1 million more bachelor degrees by 2025.
I know that poll.
And so we've been thinking really hard. Well, how are you going to do this given the current rate of young people coming out of our system? And we're not going to meet that goal. We're just not going to meet it, because we're told that CSU kids are taking 6-7 years to get out of the system.
And I'm sure you've heard someone from the CSU system in a position of stature said maybe this should just be a transfer institution.
Well, yes. Well, I mean, there's been lots of things put on the table to think about, and this last year the bill was signed. Senator Block from San Diego is allowing. We're doing just kind of pilots, 8 pilots for those community colleges that are interested, the ability to offer a bachelor's degree in applied fields.
Exciting times indeed. Will you come back and talk more about education?
Absolutely.
Her name is Carol Liu. She is a member of the California State Senate. My name is Brad Pomerance, and you are watching California Edition.